Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to or watching the Powercast. And this week, we will be recapping Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, Episode 2. And the episode is titled Reaping and Sowing. So I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing, Rich?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And I'm also here with Miss Dana Abercrombie. How are you, Dana?
I am doing very well. Excited to talk about this episode, and I'm really excited for this show, which is like, yay, improvement.
Good. Yep. So yeah, last week was great. We had a great response of the first Powercast back. Of course, we was on video for the first time, all of us. So we're happy that you guys enjoyed the content and everything, and we got a lot of views and stuff. So thank you to everyone. I also want to give a thank you to Stars as well. One thing I want to say before we get to our recap of this episode is if you do enjoy listening to this content and you want to support us, no money involved or nothing. If you want to support us, please hit the like button and also consider subscribing if you do like our content enough, because that helps us grow. It helps us come back and do these recaps again and again. And, there's a lot of power shows now. And, doing this show takes a lot of time, out of our week and everything, because we're on different schedules. We have to plan ahead and everything. So if you really, enjoy this content, please hit the like button, because that just helps us do this and continue to do this. And, it helps us grow our audience, because we are an independent outlet and everything. So please consider doing that, because that does help. And we appreciate all the comments and all the engagement. And please feel free to share your thoughts on Raising Kanan or the show or whatever, because we love the engagement. We love to talk about the actual show and everything itself. So definitely leave your comments, tweet at us. All the details are on the screen and everything. If you're watching, you can see all our Twitter accounts. So yeah, just consider doing all that stuff, because it does help. And since we're at this point of the show where we're talking about support and everything, I do want to go ahead and just plug my book real quick, which is called Gully. So this is like it's a urban street fiction kind of book, kind of story based on real life experiences. It's written by myself and Latrice Oliveira. Latrice actually came from Southside Jamaica, Queens, and Long Island as well. She spent a lot of time there because of her family. So she grew up in the 90s, the same era as Raising Kanan is taking place in. So if you enjoy Raising Kanan, you could also check out this story. You might like that too. And I also wanted to say that we are all writers here on this show. So that is why we're so passionate about shows like Raising Kanan, because we are all writers too. So you can be confident that you're listening to real writers, people who really enjoy storytelling and stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's why we get so passionate and so into these discussions that we have. But what was you going to say, Rich? I saw you motion to talk.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm very glad that you pointed out that, because I was going to say, you definitely need to mention that, because I know people have criticized us in the past when we talk about the writing on these shows. Well, now, yes, Gary here, a published author. Check out his book. Dana and I write as well. So just to let you know, there's a reason why we critique certain things.
Yeah. And it doesn't come out of, hatred or anything like that. Most of the times it's just we're so passionate about this, and, it's just we just want to talk about it. Like, we just enjoy talking about it. So that's what it is. But yeah, sorry to hold you guys up. I just thought, it was important to do some housekeeping before we get to the main course, the main meal and everything. So let's get into our takeaways for the week from Raising Kanan episode 2, Reaping and Sowing. So in this segment, each of us gives our main takeaways from the episode, just our thoughts and things that stood out to us. And then, after we're done doing that, then, we're going to have some dialogue. So we're going to ask some questions about what's going to happen next and things of that nature. So this week, I'm going to put the spotlight on Richard Bailey Jr. first. So Richard, go ahead and give us your takeaways from the episode.
All right. So first and foremost, I just want to say I'm still enjoying the show a lot. This week's episode, I have three main takeaways I want to talk about. First and foremost, rest in peace to D Wiz. We spoke about this character last week. We had a segment that we recorded on the show, and I believe Gary also has a separate segment on YouTube right now in which we talked about characters we think could potentially turn on Kanan, down the road because of what happened with Buck 20 and, of course, Unique. And I find it very funny how we had that discussion, and then the next episode, this character ends up getting killed. So I thought it was very well done to tell this story because, again, we knew that everything that Kanan did in the first episode, when he made the decision to kill Buck 20, there had to be some type of consequences that came from that. From the minute this episode started, he's laying in bed. You see a Scarface poster. And once again, I like how they reference a lot of these movies, things that you think would shape the character but that everybody is familiar with. They talked about, you saw that Scarface poster. New Jack City was the movie that they were going to watch when he asked about having, D Wiz come over. But yeah, like I said, we knew that there was going to be some consequences that came from that action. And I thought it was very interesting because, again, you have Lulu, who was the one that did the deed in the end, because he is the right-hand man to Rock. But again, the Queen Pen move of what she did, because they knew that his weapons were, was behind this. They knew that he was probably the one that was there to work alongside Kanan, and they decided to get rid of him. Now, what I'm interested to see is what the fallout will be from that in the next episode, because it was very clear that he was going to Kanan's house prior to all of this happening. And then Lulu stops by and convinces him to go to that club instead. We know that Jukebox saw him getting to Lulu's car. So we have to see what happens with that fallout. And then in addition to that, because the family knows that he was headed to Kanan's place before this happened, I think they would be very suspicious as to if they know anything about what happened. Also, go into the fact that they mentioned that he has a brother that just got out of prison. So I expect to see that brother introduced in the show at some point, because the brother, I'm pretty sure, is going to want some type of retaliation. He's probably the one that will be more than likely to get some retaliation because his younger brother got killed. So I look forward to seeing how they're going to make that evolve. But it was very dramatic. Yes, he had the best night of his life, went out partying, got himself some action, and then unfortunately came to an end. And you could see that Lulu didn't want to kill him because he had tears in his eyes when he shot him. But it's just a very emotional gut punch. And again, we know from here, I think things are going to start to go downhill. So we'll see how that story evolves. But yeah, rest in peace to D Wiz, a character that I was very curious to learn more about. And unfortunately, you have to take people out, to really emphasize that there are consequences for actions, that whenever something bad is made, something bad happens. So that's one takeaway. The other two takeaways I want to mention very quickly. Secondly, this episode really, once again, we saw Rock exploring her relationship with Symphony. And then at the end of this episode, you see Marvin exploring his relationship with the other character who was a part of that club. Now, we already know that this woman does not like Raquel. We already know that Marvin had an exchange with Symphony in this episode saying, like he said, don't mess around with my sister. But again, tried to play off like he was just having a conversation and he wasn't serious. So this is going to be an issue moving forward, because I believe, Gary, you said next week, you said on the last episode that the brothers may start to question how Raquel is moving and doing business, because she may be preoccupied with whatever is going on with her and Symphony right now. And I think now you're going to really start to see both of them are going to be in a situation where they are essentially working with people, but now they're trying to have relationships with them as well. So I'm curious to see what happens with that dynamic. I don't imagine it's going to end well either. But we'll see what happens. So that's one thing worth mentioning. The final takeaway that I want to mention, it has a lot to do with Kanan's crush, Davina, in this episode. Because what we saw of this character last week, obviously, this was Buck 20's girlfriend, Kanan's crush, someone that he has had a crush on ever since he was a kid. And then in this episode, you see her getting into a fight with Buck 20's, one of his other girls he messed around with named Tiffany, and beat the hell out of her. You know, I saw a couple of blows thrown here and there. So you get to learn more about this character. You see that she's a very tough-willed. Obviously, there's a situation going on at home with her mother. And I feel as though we got bits and pieces of that in this particular episode. We'll probably get more as the season goes on. But she was talking about she was taking care of her sister. And they had the scene where she's rolling her stroller by Kanan, by Kanan's house. He happens to come outside. And again, she keeps questioning him. Did you know Buck 20? Did you have some type of beef with Buck 20?
Yep.
And he keeps saying no, because, again, news is spreading that obviously they were involved in what happened with Buck 20. So my thought is this, is that I'm curious to see what happens with this Davina character, because I feel like, that could end up becoming Sean's mom. I have no idea if that is essentially how this is going to go down. But what I will say is that I don't know if y'all felt the same. We'll probably get into this later. When she was, riding around her sister in the stroller, I kind of thought to myself, I mean, is that really her sister or is that really her kid? Because I kind of feel like it could be her kid. But we don't know how the family dynamic is at her house. So we have to obviously see, because it kind of feels like that character has a couple more layers and secrets about her. Because in this episode, you saw her that she was ready to throw down with Tiffany, so I kind of feel like there's more to that character we're going to learn about. And maybe there's some stuff that Kanan doesn't fully know that he's also going to learn about her as well. But overall, I thought it was a great episode. It really was emotional in terms of what happened to D-Wiz, because I was cool with the character last week. I was curious about what was going to be the result of what Kanan did. And then you saw in this episode, he was very nonchalant, like he didn't act like nothing was going to happen to him from the minute, because this was the first episode where he went back to school after that incident. So you kind of thought that he was going to have a certain demeanor about it, but he just didn't like, hey, whatever, I don't care. Everything is good. So I'm curious to see how he's going to be in the next episode, because when he finds out his boy got taken out, my guess is that, obviously Raquel has the intention of, she wants to protect Kanan. And that they kept having the dialogue in this episode that Unique kept saying, the body needs a street. This is the whole reason why they orchestrated this thing to kill D-Wiz. But the issue is that what we know is that Kanan is hard-headed. So he's going to possibly think, oh, well, obviously Unique's guys probably took out my friend. Now I need to retaliate against them.
Yeah.
So it's obviously going to backfire.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But another great episode. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next.
Yeah. Very, very excellent takeaways there and observations. Yeah, some stuff that I didn't even touch on here, but yeah, there's some stuff that I'm gonna get to also. But yeah, great takeaways. So I will go next for the takeaways. And I do have a lot to say about that whole D-Wiz situation, but let me start here and say that, because last week, Richard, you mentioned that, Howard, the police officer played by Omar Epps, you mentioned that, it seems like a training day dynamic between him and the other officer, the female officer. And this one really brought that theory home, this episode, because we see them in the car together and he's kind of schooling her on, the way that the streets work and stuff like that. It really does have that, veteran rookie kind of vibe. And at that point, we still didn't know if Howard was crooked or not, or if he's just if he's very knowledgeable about the streets or something. But then, later on, we do see that actually, he he sort of is crooked, it seems like, because he goes to see Unique at the clothing store, and then his position is basically like there's going to be crime. We know that there's going to be crime, but there has to be only one crew, in charge of it. We will only allow one crew. So it's basically seeming like he wants to, get Raquel and her crew out the way and only allow Unique, so it's like he wants to control the crime or something like that. So it seems like there's now going to be an active movement against Raquel and her crew and her team. So that's going to be interesting to watch unfold. And of course, that kind of connects to what happened with D-Wiz, because I'll get back to that later. But that is going to have a lot of impact on how things turn out with that situation as well, because now we know that Howard is kind of working with Unique to get Raquel out the way. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, and whether Raquel and her team are able to get the one up on them somehow. So yeah, that's interesting. So one thing I just wanted to point out as well, this isn't exactly story related, this takeaway, but I want to say that I'm a fan of Uncle Marvin, because he offers a lot of comedy relief, a lot of slapstick comedy and everything. But like he still has like a street element to him too. But his character is more layered, because he has the comedy. He's kind of like a smooth brother as well. Like he has this smoothness about him. So I'm really warming up to his character a lot, and I'm wondering how far they're going to push it with this relationship with the club owner, like the white woman who lost her dog, unfortunately. I'm wondering how far it's going to go, because he actually started fighting at the club over her. So I wonder how far that relationship is going to go, because she seemed impressed, like, wow, no one's ever fought over me before.
Mm-hmm.
And then we know that Symphony and Raquel have something also, and Symphony works at the club. So how is that dynamic going to work with both siblings in a relationship with the club staff? And I'm wondering if that will affect the business later on somehow. So yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, Uncle Marvin, he's one of my favorite characters. So I just wanted to say that. So there was a scene in this where, Raquel and Uncle Lulu visit this store because they need some storage options, for the product and everything that they're selling, I guess. And, we see they go into the deli or the bodega. Dana, you're the expert. What was that? Was that a bodega or a deli? Yeah. Or is that the same thing? I mean? Bodega. Okay. I didn't see any cats though. So, but yeah, so they go into, the bodega, and the woman behind the counter, she has a black eye, right? And then, we see the guy come out who we assume is her husband. And, he's like, she's not in charge here. You got to talk to me. So instantly we see this guy is a bit of an a-hole, right? Because, we can only assume that he gave her that black eye. And, Raquel and Lulu see this. Clearly they see the black eye, and they walk on to do their business with the shop owner. And they cut a deal so that they can store their stuff there, and they're gonna pay him extra for his rent and everything to store their stuff there and everything. But my thing is, the reason this is a takeaway for me is I'm wondering, because they showed us that black eye for a reason. So I'm wondering if something will happen later on where maybe they cut out the guy from the deal and deal directly with the woman, and maybe she becomes like the owner of that situation. And then Raquel does business with her, because I feel like even though Raquel is hard, we know she's a hard woman, she's tough and everything, I think there's she's still a woman, so she still understands that, you know, this lady is in a bad situation. So I think that, you know, this will make her want to help, you know, that lady out, you know, because it's not fair. Like this woman isn't in the life at all. She's just an innocent person. Seemingly, she's an innocent person who's working here. She's married to the store owner, and you know, it looks like she's getting beat up, you know, for no reason. So I think maybe Raquel will want to help her out. But Dana, you was giving me like funny eyes. So am I wrong
Because
here?
the way how you said it was like, oh, because she's a woman. I'm like, oh, not necessarily.
No, I'm saying like because she has that, you know, she should have that womanly instinct that's
Digging
like, you know,
yourself
we
bigger
gotta
into
look
a
out.
hole.
No,
Well,
because wouldn't you want to look
Digging.
out for? Wouldn't you want to
Digging.
look out for another woman who's getting beat up, like by her husband? Wouldn't you want to help somebody out?
That is entrapment, and I'm not going to answer that.
Well,
But to say that
like-
all women will do that is just like,
I'm not saying all. But I feel like, you know, Raquel specifically, because just the way that they looked at it, it makes me think that, you know, she's gonna do something to help her out later. Like I don't think she'll turn a blind eye now because she needs to get the deal done. But I think she's going to help that woman out. You know.
hey,
Why not?
can I make a comment?
mm-hmm.
I feel any guy that puts his hand on a woman, he needs to get his ass whooped, because you should never hit a woman. Period. Never.
Yeah.
So
like Lulu might help too. I mean, he's got a legit reason.
Could. Don't just say, you know, because she's a woman, she's gonna save the day.
I think you're missing my point. I'm just saying, like, you know, because I mean, it's the same with men. Like, if I walk by, I see an innocent, you know, black man getting beat up by, you know, a bunch of, you know, whoever, I'm going to like help. You know, if I see this person is innocent, defenseless, didn't do anything wrong, I'm gonna want to help them just because, you know, that could be me in that situation. Like,
Okay,
so
then say someone will eventually help.
Yeah.
Womanly instincts.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'm just saying logic. Like, you know, the reasoning behind it is that maybe, you know, she sees a woman in a bad situation, and, you know, as a woman, she might have been in bad situations when she was younger, so she wants to help out this woman now because she's in a position to help her. So that's all I'm saying. You know, I'm not saying nothing sexist. I don't know what's going on here.
I don't know nothing. I was just saying.
But yeah, so I definitely feel like, you know, they might end up helping that lady out later on because you know, why else would they put so much emphasis on that, you know? So
or maybe she'll kill him.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, oh, you mean like the woman herself? Yeah, maybe she'll do it. So and if she does that, more power to her, you know, because he shouldn't have put his hands on her. So
yeah, that needs to happen, because they painted this guy from the very beginning. When you saw that bruise, you knew what it was. That guy, something has to happen to him. He need to be dealt with.
But again, Raquel, she doesn't forget. Case in point, rest in peace to the dog.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a very good point.
And you know, I'm gonna bring that back later because, you know, I'm not saying like Raquel is some superhero out here, because she's clearly, you know, she's evil. She's got her bad ways about her. So, but yeah, that was that though. I wanted to shed light on that. Definitely chime in on the comments as well. I want to hear what other people think about that. So yeah, next takeaway. So while Kanan, like, we see that, you know, in this episode, Raquel wants Kanan out the way so that he doesn't get hurt, and Kanan believes that he's, you know, helping out his mother with the business and everything. But really what's happening is he's getting sent to this house where there's this guy here who's watching out for him. And Kanan believes that he's in some way helping, but really it's just Raquel's way to get him out of harm's way and keep him somewhere. But, you know, during one of his stays at this house, Kanan notices the locked door right downstairs. So I feel like it's only a matter of time before Kanan gets on the other side of that locked door. And then, you know, once that happens, I think he is going to go behind Raquel's back and start doing things to the point where, you know, he's going to have so much things in motion that's making money that you know, she won't be able to shut it down because it's going to be so lucrative what he's doing. So I think this is the start of Kanan breaking out and doing his own thing, sort of thing. Like he's going to start making his own decisions and going into business for himself a little bit.
So you think as soon as the next episode?
It might not be that soon, but I think they're laying the groundwork to show us that, you know, there's this locked door. At the moment, Kanan can't get through it, but eventually he's going to get through it. And you know, we all know that Kanan is good at getting behind locked doors because, you know, he survived that firefight with Amy St. Patrick. So
yep, it's something that a lot of people criticize how the character survived. So yeah, you're right. 100% right.
Somehow made it out alive. So, you know.
Yep.
But yeah, so that was interesting, and I can't wait to see where they take that, you know, the locked door thing. And you know, this will be another good one for Dana to chime in on as well. I'm sure she'll have another perspective on this. But you know, the scene with Jukebox and her girlfriend, you know, where they were at the store and everything. First of all, we see, you know, a few scenes of Jukebox on the streets hustling, selling clothes, t-shirts, and that sort of thing, you know, which was common, you know, for people back then. Even now,
and now,
people still do it now. So.
Took you to Times Square,
New York.
Oh yeah. There's people hustling in Times Square all day. Like
you got attacked by the
costume.
Kidnapped. You got kidnapped.
I almost got kidnapped. Dana had to save me because, like,
I'm literally watching them drag you away.
Yeah. So yeah, she was in the streets hustling, you know. But they're at this. So Jukebox and her girlfriend were at the store, and you know, she's looking through the clothes and everything to see what's there, and you know, her girlfriend is obviously like, oh, you want that? I'll buy it for you. So you know, obviously she probably meant it in a good way, but she was being very ignorant about things because I guess she was kind of assuming that Jukebox couldn't buy it for herself if she wanted it, you know. And then they had a whole conversation about this. And yeah, like my thing is with this scene, like I liked it because they had dialogue, they resolved it, and then they were kissing again, you know. And it was like very touching when they started kissing. So my thing is I like when they bring things like this up because people do make assumptions about Black people, whether it's, you know, we're all criminals or we're all poor or, you know, we all don't have dads or mothers or wherever. Like people do see us and make assumptions. So I like that they point that out, and I like that they also show that we can educate each other without there being, you know, any animosity or tension or violence as well. So like, you know, this was what we saw here. It was a warming resolution to you know, to what happened. And I want to see more of that because not everything has to end up in, you know, racial tension between people. Like we can educate each other in, you know, a calm and warming way so that we understand each other more, because that's really all that needs to happen, is that people have to be willing to learn more about, like, I'm a person who I love like learning about other cultures, like people in Japan, people in China, people in Estonia, Russia. Like I want to understand what separates all these cultures and makes people different and what their backgrounds are, what their history is. So you just have to be willing to, you know, listen and understand what, you know, people's backgrounds are and you know, don't make assumptions of things. So that's what that scene was kind of showing. And I'm glad that it was like, you know, a warming kind of close to the scene as well. And that it wasn't, you know, there wasn't any big fuss or tension about it. So, but Dana, what did you think of that scene though?
I like that scene very much. Everything that you kind of said was truthful. And I really like their relationship, where it seems like for her, the white girl, she's kind of walking on eggshells a little bit because she doesn't know what to say or what not to say. And there are moments where it may come off as being offensive, but I don't see her purposely doing that. I see their relationship as something that's very genuine. And I really like that. And it's refreshing. And I really hope that it lasts. And I'm kind of afraid because I don't want no one to get shot, die, or anything. Because we do know Jukebok ends up being a very hardened person. So I don't know if because of the relationships that she has and because of how this may end up ending, that's where we get the hardening from. But I hope that this is not it. I hope that we see a relationship, an LGBTQ plus, I hope I said that right, relationship on screen that is just happy. You know, they just exist. So that's what I'm really pulling for.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem forced, because sometimes it can seem like very forced, like just to be there for an agenda. But this feels very natural, very authentic. So
and then what's really interesting, if you look at the time period that they're in, because it's in the 90s. This is not 20. It's not 2021. This is in the 90s. So there's a lot of things that can transpire to break them apart. There's a lot of judgment. So there was that part that you saw in the middle of Harlem where that happened, not Queens, I'm sorry, in New York City, where that happened. And I'm happy that they wasn't bothered. Nobody said anything, that everything was just copacetic.
Yeah.
Can I just make a comment?
No.
Yeah.
I have a very bad feeling now that Dana said how Jukebox is very hardened, and you wonder how the character got to that. I have a bad feeling now. Something might happen to Karen.
Well, you remember that it's not Karen. I got the joke. I'm slow. But if you kind of remember in the Power series, it was Kanan that she first tells that she's gay too. And I don't know. It wasn't touched upon, but I hope that this isn't some type of situation, because we've seen where Kanan, as an adult, he's hardened enough where he kills his own son. So I hope it doesn't come into any kind of thing where he may have to kill this girl because she may stand in the way of something. And that we did kind of see not a fracturing of their relationship, but it was very tense. You know, and then at the end, we do know who ends up killing Jukebox because of the Power series. So I just hope that, you know, we don't see some kind of tension between that.
I hope that doesn't happen either. What I think though is that I think that everybody in that, and I really think they haven't really highlighted this yet on the show. I think everybody in Kanan's family is a target now. With Unique, because if any of his guys ever know who Jukebox is, they come after her. If she just so happens to be with her girlfriend, that may not be a good outcome for the girlfriend. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But something definitely going to happen, because that character is nowhere to be found in the past Power series. So something definitely happened to her. I hope it's not a tragedy with her getting killed though. But we'll see what happens.
Nicole, by the way, is her name.
Nicole, yeah, okay, that's what it is. Yeah, I don't know why. For some reason, I thought Karen. No, but let's ignore that name altogether. Ignore that name. Yeah.
Or maybe that's what, because not to go off track. I'm sorry, but there was that incident with the school situation. Remember when she was with her friends at the school and it was like, who's that? So I hope that also doesn't come into play. I just want them to be happy. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we will see them be happy for a while, but I do think something is going to happen to break them apart. Because
Power's not a love story saga.
Because even Ghost and Angela, you saw what happened to them.
But in the end,
they got together. But hey, that's, we'll see how it ended though.
They got together. Yay!
Yeah.
So and my last takeaway is, of course, I had to address the D-Wiz thing. So, so my take on this is, like Rich was saying, I think Raquel's decision to get rid of D-Wiz was so she can negotiate a peace offering with Unique and his crew, and say, okay, blood for blood, you got one now. And yeah, so I think that's her intention. And it was a very cold thing to do. It definitely stains her character that she had to go this direction, but that's also what makes it compelling to see that she's such a caring mother, but at the same time, she does like really cold things to maintain their life and everything. So that just kind of adds more depth to her. But I do think this is going to come back to haunt both her and Lulu. And there's a few ways this can go, I think, really. So I mean, we know what's going on with Howard, and Unique. So I think maybe Unique could maybe there's a way Unique will cooperate with Howard, and they'll try to pin this murder on someone, or it could just end up in a bloodbath, because like Rich said, Kanan, he's like, I feel like Raquel is gonna lie to him and say that somebody must have killed D-Wiz. She's not gonna admit to the fact that she had him killed. So Kanan is gonna believe that it's tit for tat, that he needs to clap back. And this was kind of the mistake that happened in the first episode. So I think, yeah, go ahead, Rich.
I just want to say one thing, because you mentioned it, I just want to make a quick comment on it. If you recall the conversation between Howard and Unique, he said, I don't want any more kids getting killed. Mm-hmm. So that right there, if they say that he was behind that, that's going to, he's definitely going to come back to ask him, what's up with this kid that got killed? Yeah, because they just had that conversation. So yeah, you mentioned that. That's why I thought about that. But yes, continue.
Yeah. So he's going to want some kind of retaliation or something from this, Howard. So yeah, something might happen there. And then also there's the fact that when Jukebox was walking home, she saw D-Wiz get in the car with Lulu. So I'm wondering how she is going to take it, and I don't know how this is going to be rolled out, because maybe at first it will be reported that D-Wiz is just missing and not dead. And I want to know if she will say something at that point, because she might say, oh, I saw him getting in the car with Lulu. And then, maybe it won't be till later on when it's reported that he's actually dead and they found his body or something like that, and I want to see how she's going to react, because she's kind of connected to everyone. So, what will she do? Will she keep quiet? And if she keeps quiet, will that change her? Will that kind of create some inner conflict with her? Because, yeah, it's a tough situation to be in, because you hang out with these people every day, Kanan, D-Wiz, Famous, and just to know that maybe this could be connected to Lulu and Raquel, and you saw him get in the car and you can't say anything, like that can haunt you for a very long time. So I want to see if that changes her and if that's what makes her harder, so yeah, that's my takeaways. Did you want to jump in and say something else, Rich? It seemed like you were thinking.
Oh no, let's go to Dana for her takeaways.
Okay, yeah, so let's go over to Dana now. So give us your takeaways from episode 2.
All right, so very simple. I am I love symbolism. So I loved how it opened up with basically he was talking about Sir Isaac Newton, and he was talking about, and it also goes with the title, he was talking about basically the law of relativity, which is every action has a reaction, and that he's going to keep your eyes open at all times. So I like how he is using these quotes from these scholars as kind of points for how he should run his life, which if you look at it is really what is the 50th law of attraction, which is written by 50 Cent. So I like how we kind of have that connection going with there, and how they used basically the physical bullet as being a symbolism to, like, any bullet that you put out there, it's going to come back to you. We kind of saw that in the first episode. And so with the title itself, Reaping and Sowing, this is what you cause. Now you have to pay the consequences for it. And it sets into motions a bunch of things that's going to happen in the future by just someone's actions alone, or just by talking too much. You know, we've seen that before. And as you were saying, sorry.
Oh, you okay?
I'm okay. So as you were saying before, there is a part where, you know, the Scarface poster that we've seen, and we have the New Jack City that we've seen. And really quickly here with, I believe this is Joey Badass. Nope, that's not Joey.
Marvin.
That's, Uncle Marvin.
That's okay.
That's
So
Joey
Uncle,
Badass.
that's Joey Badass. So if you look here, over here, it's really interesting. So you have this one, and you have Uncle Marvin. For those who don't know, this is around the same location as New Jack City.
It's the same location, but it also looks like the exact same attire, especially when you go back to Unique. Isn't that like the same attire that Nino Brown wore one time, like that black? Yeah, see, these guys are smart.
So anyone who knows this scene would know. Remember the shootout in the park during the wedding? So that's kind of the area where things went down. Wow. And this here is not, so that's kind of very nearby. That's where Columbia University is. So
we were there.
We were there. I'm like they filmed where D-Wiz got killed. Remember he went to go pee, and they filmed it. I'm like, that's literally under the bridge of where you would connect to get to George Washington. It's right. It's the highway. It's next to the what do you call it? The West Side Highway. It's right there. And that connects to also the George Washington Bridge, and you can get to the Bronx and everywhere else. But the point I'm simply saying is this. I love symbolism, and I love how they're going away about it. That's very smart. So for me, the whole title of Reaping and Sowing, we kind of see what was going on, the consequences of the last season, and how they're going to pay the last episode, and how they're building up to what's going on now, and the consequences that you're going to have to pay for that. That for me also stood out with the door scene, with Kanan wanting to see what was inside of that door on the other side. And, you know, that is something that can either change his life for the good or the worse. He could be really smart at it, or it could just completely destroy him. And kind of that curiosity that he has was also the same curiosity that we saw in New Jack City, that we saw really, you know, can tear characters and people's lives apart. And also I love the fact what they had the Scarface, which we all know that every kind of, in that culture, they idolize Scarface. So that is something that he is.
That's one of my favorite films too.
Wait, no, you love it so much. But yeah, so Scarface is something that, you know, people idolize, especially in that drug world. So Gary has a lot of explaining to do. So yeah, that, and I also love the D-Wiz and what was going on with him. I loved how, you know, this is a show that doesn't seem to be dragging out. They're going to just go straight to it right away. And it's only 10 episodes. And I feel like this, hopefully, they're using each episode wisely. And that we're not, you know, there are moments that we've seen with previous shows where it drags out. But this one, you know, it seems to be something that they are willing to not do. And the fact that, you know, in the beginning quote, it said that, you know, keep your eyes open at all times. So when you think that Kanan is not paying attention, he really is. And it kind of explained also previously, he's very analytical. You know, with him also, remember the whole Syverson situation? So he's a very analytical person, and why I don't think that we'll get the recklessness that we've seen before. He is going to make mistakes, as we saw previously with the whole, you know, they're taking over your block, Mom situation. I think now it'll allow him to analyze situations more. And I look forward to what is going to happen in the future episodes of what we see with Kanan, and also season 2.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like there's not a lot of filler in the show so far, and I hope they're able to, you know, keep that up.
Right.
But yeah,
and also I just really quickly, Joey Badass is really just amazing. He seems to just take away. He's just in every scene. You can't stop watching him, and it's just natural. And that's what I kind of love about this season is all of the actors. They know their craft. They know what they're doing, and they excel at it. So for me, he was just a standout in all of the scenes that he was in.
Yeah, Joey Badass, like he's killing it. Like I wasn't
He's
expecting
badass.
him. Yeah, exactly. I wasn't expecting him to be that good, like because he comes from rap, from hip hop. But it seems like he's a legit actor, like in this. Like
You have to watch Two Distinct Strangers. It's on Netflix. It's like 20 minutes, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I'll give it a watch because he's doing great work. So I got if he's got something else he's in, I definitely have to check it out now. Because
And let me just make a comment and say he does great work, even on bad shows. Shout out to Boomerang on BET because he was on that show, but he was great on that show.
Is that the TV show version of the Eddie Murphy film or something?
Yeah, but except for none of those characters are in it. It's all about their kids. So
wow,
yeah, not a good show.
Wow,
but it is what it is.
And he's so young too, only 26.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, so this is where the show gets juicy. We're gonna just shoot from the hip, ask some questions, and talk some theories about what we think might happen and stuff. So, so the first question I guess I have is, so we saw Davina throughout this episode, and we saw her in the fight. We saw she kind of got suspended or whatever, and she's clearly mourning over D-Wiz, because she had a connection with him while he was alive and everything. But we know that I mean not D-Wiz, sorry, I mean Buck. She had a connection with Buck. And yeah, so we know that Kanan likes her and everything, right? And his position has to basically been, to lie to her about Buck. Like he straight up lied and said that they had no beef, no nothing. So he's clearly lying about everything to separate himself from Buck's murder and everything. So I want to ask you guys, how do you think this relationship might pan out, based on what's happening so far? So I'll go to you first on that, Dana. What do you think?
I kind of feel that this is going to be something that we've seen before in the sense of, he's going to lie to her. She ends up talking to him more and more, and they kind of have feelings and connections, and then eventually she'll end up finding out what really happened and that he was involved, and then we'll get the "you betrayed me," conversation, and they'll break up, and she'll refuse to talk, and maybe down the line in season 2 they'll talk again, and there'll be a scene of passion between the two. And way Richard is looking, but but that I hope it doesn't go that way right away. But I do definitely see them, they like each other. We're at the stage where, they're talking. There's no animosity. Remember, they've known each other since kindergarten or something. He was in love with her. So I definitely see that their relationship is going to become closer. And then she'll eventually find out through, one of the friends who will probably slip up and say something about what really happened to Buck. She'll be hurt.
Okay. And what about you, Richard?
Well, I think the death of D-Wiz is going to accelerate this a lot quicker. Because like you said, Gary, depending on how they roll it out, if they say he's missing or if they just straight up say the start of the next episode, this kid was found dead, then that kind of adds more to it, because she's already heard rumors that Kanan and his friends were involved in what happened to Buck. And that there had to be some type of retaliation coming. So it's going to be hard for him to keep lying about that. But I kind of feel like she's going to find out sooner rather than later. And then we'll see how that relationship moves forward from there. Because as Dana alluded to, yes, this is his crush. He's been after her, and he was adamant in that first episode. He was always going to be trying to go after her because that's like his first crush. So we'll see what happens. But I think he's not going to have that much time before she finds out. And one little quick point that I will add, and I like that they did this, because in this episode, when everything was going down at the school, you heard as Kanan was observing what was happening to her, there was a moment where D Wiz mentioned, hey, maybe I should try to go ask her out now. Because so when that scene happened, I thought, don't tell me they're going to do this whole thing where now he goes after her and this creates tension between him and Kanan. But see, that didn't happen because now he's out the picture completely. So I like how they switched it up, making you think from when you saw that, there's going to be tension between him and Kanan now because that's Kanan's girl. And then now that's not a factor at all because of what happened, the bigger picture of the fact that they killed 20 Buck and it all coming back the way it did. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But I like how they kept you guessing as to what was going to happen with that particular relationship. So we'll see where things go from here.
Or if you want to get really dark, she ends up dead, and she ends up dead because of her connection either to Kanan or because she'll end up finding out what really happens and threatening to tell the police.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible now. We've seen so many bodies already in the show. So
I don't expect her living past certain seasons.
Yeah, that's a good point. One last thing I will add too is going back to the fact that you saw how she just laid out this other girl, Tiffany. Obviously, she can handle herself. And that edge is something we did not know the character had in the first episode. So I'm pretty sure Kanan was a little surprised by that, but that may also harden him as well. Because when you saw him in the first episode and he took the shot at D Wiz, there was still some hesitancy in doing that. It's like he wasn't sure. And then, of course, as you mentioned last week, Dana, where he was out shooting with his mom out in the field and he had that smirk, you kind of felt, okay, now he felt a little bit more comfortable. But before that, it wasn't really like you felt that he was comfortable in what he was doing. So I kind of feel all of these things are going to push him closer to being the Kanan we knew, who was just ruthless and didn't care. And she may play a role in that as well, because you see how brutal she was in her encounter.
That could kind of create that whole Bonnie and Clyde relationship between the two, where they just become really volatile. And I'm not going to say that he's going to kill her or she's going to kill, he's not going to die. But it may end up being to a point where she may like it too much, and that's how she ends up dying. She gets too involved in the streets and what's going to end up happening. Maybe they'll end up, running something together, or he brings her into the family, because they known each other since they were like goobers. Mm-hmm. So you could kind of, it's not like he's a random stranger off the block. You can know there's that trust there. But maybe she tries to take off and do something on the side, and there's some kind of betrayal. So I just don't know yet to that extent. Or maybe she's just a girl who knows how to stand her ground and nothing happens, and she's a nice, good girl, and she gets transferred to another school. Because she's nice.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
We'll see.
It can go in any direction. We'll see.
It's only the second episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do agree with Rich that it is gonna, speed, like now that D Wiz passed away, like that is gonna speed up her finding out that Kanan was behind this. And yeah, the question is what her reaction will be after that. So, maybe what Dana said might happen, and she'll threaten to go to police or Howard or something. And that somebody will have to take her out, maybe that could happen. Or, maybe just maybe Kanan finds a way to spin the whole thing and, lie to her more about what happened, mm-hmm. and make her see, that he kind of had no choice to do it, or make her feel, like he had no choice but to kill him or something. Because of tension in the streets with his mom and stuff. and maybe, just maybe, they actually get together and she forgives him, and she comes on his side. So that is a possibility that could happen. It seems like anything could happen at this point.
Or maybe she just won't care and be like, okay, what's next? That's the life.
You think she's that easy?
No, not easy like that. I mean, like, all right, he's dead. Yeah. I know the life. I understand it. Mm-hmm. What's for dinner? Got some Skittles? How about some Annihilators?
Yeah. Hey, I mean, people in that environment are conditioned, because a lot of violence does happen, so sometimes people really are like, they move on from things quick just because they're conditioned to that happening in the neighborhood all the time. So and that's the sad reality of of shows like this and environments like that in real life. So that's the thing. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with the whole Davina, because I do think her character will have some greater significance later on. So I wanted to also ask you guys what you think, in detail about Howard and his partner, his police, partner and stuff like that, and where you see that going and what role that might play in the show moving forward. So I'll go to you first, Rich. What do you make of Howard and his partner?
Well, I think you hit it on the head when you talked about the discussion he had with her in the car, because when you mentioned Training Day again, that is exactly what I felt, where he's saying this is how the streets work. And obviously, now where it can go in a different path is that we already know in Training Day, when Denzel did what he did, eventually Ethan Hawke was able to get him. I don't think they're going to have this whole story where she takes him down. I don't see that happening. But what I do think is, again, his beef is with Raquel. Now that he has made it clear that when he had that conversation with Unique, he said, when it comes down to a war, you're the one that I'm rooting for, not Raquel. So I do believe that Raquel, that she's going to be the one to eventually take him down. But it's just a matter of how it evolves from here. What we know is that obviously he is corrupt. Obviously he has some type of deal with Unique. And he wants Unique to be successful as far as what he's doing. So it's a question of how are you going, like having this other detective involved, because remember in the first episode, she was like trying to investigate everybody when she saw about the, the attempted shooting and all this other stuff with Buck 20, she's like trying to investigate, but he's trying to go like say, no, you stay in this corner. I'll go and handle this my own way. And that's not going to stay how it is right now. So I'm curious to see how they're going to involve her in this. But I don't think it's going to be the traditional thing they did with Training Day, where eventually the good cop takes down the bad cop. It's probably going to end up being Raquel that has to do the deed. But we'll see what happens. Go ahead, Dana.
For me, I understand the similarity to Training Day, but from what I remember in that movie, Denzel's character was deeply hated by the community. They feared him.
Yeah.
And I know we're only in episode 2, but I just don't get that level of fear from Malcolm Howard yet.
Yeah.
So I just can't see that. I don't see that comparison. I just see it as, he's a rookie cop and you're stuck with the guy who has connections that maybe, is dirty, but I don't see it to that extent, where he's like killing people on the spot and hiding drugs and taking out the guns. And
you're right. Mm-hmm.
I just don't get that yet. I just think that they have to have the police in there because power. That's the kind of the connection thread. You have drugs and cops and a club. That's how they tend to connect. But for their dynamic, I do see this being as I'm a newbie, so let me investigate. Her probably going off and doing things independently, and she always getting shut down by Malcolm, and maybe there may be something where he has to play along, but I do think that he is not too good to start tampering with evidence, but I just don't see him as being like that big fearful overlord. So I do think that with that dynamic, I don't want to say that this is a throwaway characters. I do believe that when it comes to the murder of D-Wiz, they're going to come in and, you know, he's going to have to probably change or hide evidence about what actually happened that night. She'll probably go off and be like, what really happened? Situation, and, you know, do that kind of storyline and maybe try to take it to the higher ups and maybe get shot down. Not literally, but, you know, and I'm not going to, you know, when you get shot down with your opinion. So they don't take any interest in it. But yeah, this is another kind of a softer version of Angela and the guy in Han, whose name I can't remember, except for I just call him Han.
Oh, John Mock.
There you go, John Mock. So yeah, I do see that as being like more similar to a Training Day situation.
I think John Mock is going to be in book
4,
book 2 in November. I think he is
season 2.
Yeah, well, we know that Lorenz Tate's brother is coming back for sure. That's been confirmed. But I think John Mock is still going to be in that show. We'll have to wait and see.
John Mock be better to be in Lorenz Tate's own show? So wouldn't it be? Isn't it book 6 or something? Book 5?
Yeah. Whenever that comes, I have no idea when that's coming.
They're not even. I don't even know if there's a script written for that. I have no idea. But yeah, so that's like just kind of how I see that dynamic, and I do see that Malcolm is going to be not necessarily a shoulder but you know how you have someone who's connected in the force to make sure everything runs smoothly on your end. So I think that Raquel is going to kind of use him to navigate this whole D-Wiz getting murdered situation. And then, you know, we'll have bigger murders and things going on later on in the season. But for right now, I just see her going to him saying, hey, we got to clean this up. And then him trying to deter the rookie cop from this situation.
Yeah, excellent takes on that. And I think, you know, we have to kind of, like, in shows like this, we have to kind of see the other side at some point. We have to see, like, the law, you know, because all of this stuff that these bad people are doing, there needs to be consequences. And, you know, these characters are there to show us that, you know, to show us that you can't do these things and get away with it, and that eventually karma is going to come back to you, and, you know, the law is going to find you and stuff like that, right? So it's good that we have these characters, and I'm glad that so far they seem somewhat interesting, because I legit want to know more about the woman and, you know, what her life is like and what, you know, she's dealing with as a rookie. And also, like, you know, yeah, what's up?
I have a question. Do any of you see them having a relationship together, you know, kind of in that stereotypical way that we've seen portrayed in other shows? Not just
I hope it's not like, you know, with Method Man and his colleague, like when we see them in bed together, you know, because this doesn't need to be that. Like, I think
you know, that scene was put in there to show off Method Man's physique. He got an excellent shape, and Courtney Kemp said the women need to see this. Basically, everybody that loves Method Man on that level needs to see this.
You saw him on the BET Awards, and all the women was like, "Oh my God!" and all the men was like, "Ooh." So yeah. When he performed that DMX tribute, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that situation was what it was in book 2, but in this, I just want it to be like, you know, Howard goes home to his family and his kids, and, you know, the reason he's doing what he's doing is because he wants to feed his family and stuff, and she has the cop has her own family. I just want it to be that, but there's interesting things you can do with them without them sleeping together, I think. Especially with the whole rookie veteran dynamic, and then him doing shady things behind the scenes. Like, that's interesting enough.
So you don't want to know.
I will add on to what Dana said earlier. I do want to see him do some dirty things. Like, I mean, some physically. Yeah. I want to see him if he has to, because the thing is this, like, I think we're gonna see in the next episode, because he was very clear with Unique. He said, I don't want any more kids, getting killed on the streets. So at some point he has to do some type of retaliation, and I want to see what is the retaliation when somebody doesn't listen to when you tell them to do something. What are you going to do? So I would not mind seeing him, whether he has to kill somebody or beat the hell out of somebody, but we'll see. But I do think we're going to need to see more to really get a feel for why this guy is a bad guy, why he's a corrupt cop. So we'll see.
Yeah, we need to see him be a bit more slimy and do some shady stuff.
But don't go full Jabari. Don't do that.
No, don't go Jabari, please don't do that. But what I was gonna say also is, because I see Omar Epps being around in the long term in this show. So I think, at the moment we see that he's struck some alliance with Unique, and we know that there's tension in the streets between Unique's people and Raquel's people. And it will probably continue this way up until maybe mid-season or something. But I feel like Raquel is going to make some moves that is going to eventually put her in a position where she is able to flip Howard and make Howard double cross Unique. So I can maybe see something like that, and then those two have a dynamic where they tolerate each other. Raquel and Howard, they tolerate each other. Maybe she throws him some money, to keep him off her back and to keep his people off her back. And then maybe they fall out again later on, because this show has to go on for more seasons. So I think it would be interesting if she manages to get into the position to where she can flip Howard in her favor. I think that would be great. But go ahead. What was you going to say?
I just want to ask a quick question. And this is a question I would invite the viewers of this podcast to also give your thoughts on this if you feel you want to answer it. I know a lot of people, y'all have already mentioned Joey Badass has been doing a phenomenal job. So I have to ask the question, do you believe that Joey Badass is going to be around on this show for the long haul? Because he's doing a great job. And then I kind of like feel like if this character gets killed off by the end of the season, that might make some people a little, upset to some degree. So I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts, and hopefully people watching can give their thoughts, how long they think this character is going to be around.
He's going to be the Luke Cage Cottonmouth. He's going out early.
Oh man,
no,
that's not good.
No.
I don't want it. I don't want it to happen, but I don't want him to be taken out. But I feel like his character is so good that he can't continue to be opposition for Raquel for too long. So I feel like maybe at the end of this season he might get taken out. Either that, or maybe he just gets taken to jail if you want him to live still, and maybe come back later. They can send him away to prison or something like that, just on a timeout kind of thing. But his presence is so strong in the show that it's like, if he's there to be an antagonist, I feel like, you can't have him be around too long, because that's how you kind of create a dynamic where the fans really, admire a character. Like, you have to have them, like, even now they're doing it. Like, he's not in a lot of scenes if you look at it. Like, each episode, it's like they keep him kind of, he has like a mystique sort of thing. He's not in, a lot of the episode kind of thing. So I feel like his presence is so strong that they're not going to have him be around for long. So that's why I think maybe at the end of this season, he might go away, whether he dies or goes to prison. So that's what I think. But what do you think, Dana?
No, I think he's going to probably be in it for the long haul. At least probably up until season 3 or season 4. I see this being seasonal show of many seasons. I think literally the opposite, because he's not in every scene and they keep him kind of a mystery, and we do know that he's head of everything, but we don't know anything about him. That mystique of the character and the fact that he's not always out there exposed may be the reason why he outlives the longest. And I feel that is his strength. He only shows when he needs to, and that's usually to make deals and to retaliate. And then he just whispers away in the wind, and then that's it. I hope they don't, because a lot of the viewers are here to also see Joey. And I don't think by killing him off, in the first season would be that smart. I don't think, maybe by killing him some other way that really is like, really? That's how he died? They could do that, but definitely not the first season. I think that his power really, it needs to be there for the long haul, and we need to see him and how he operates. And the fact that we don't know this yet, that makes the audience more curious. I don't want him to get oversaturated. We see him in every scene all the time. I think that kind of mystery is just, this is someone that Raquel has to go to. Oh, who is this person? So I really hope that they keep him and they don't kill him right away.
Yeah, I see your point. I mean, maybe they could stretch him out in the show for a long time if they continue at the pace they've been rolling him out, and only have him be in, scenes that make sense and stuff. And don't overexpose him. Maybe they can keep him in the show longer. But I just feel like he's such a strong character that they might be worried that he takes away from the main characters of the show. So, but yeah, great character either way. So I do hope he does. He's a great actor too. I do hope he stays around for longer. But I'm just going by what I see happen in other shows, So, but yeah, any more thoughts on Howard or the police or Joey Badass before I get to the final question? Okay, so I did have a bunch of questions, but we're running long now, so I'm just gonna end on this one because I think this one is a very juicy one, and I'm curious to see what people are going to say about this, right? So we know this is the Power universe, and this is Raising Kanan, and this is all the way back in the 90s, right? And the current Power is set in today, in 2021. So in Power Book 2, we see Tariq, he basically strikes a reunion. He partners up with Monet and the Tejada family, right? We know that family is from Queens, New York, right? So I want to ask you guys, are we going to see any connections teased in Raising Kanan? Because if Monet and her they hyped up her husband, the Tejada, like Mr. Tejada, like he's some super tough, like OG kingpin guy, right? So if he's been around and his name rings out so much, and if Kanan is going to become to be as influential, and his mother too, like if they're going to rise up in the ranks of the criminal underworld in Queens, isn't it plausible that these people might cross paths at some point in time? Because in the streets, when there's a lot of notable people doing their thing on in the streets, in the criminal underworld, their names ring out. They hear about each other through the streets. They know of each other's names. And eventually they cross paths. Sometimes it's out of respect and they're not really a tense thing. But to me, it feels like if this Tejada guy is as big as, if he really was putting in work all this time, like they're saying in book 2, I feel like there might be some connections back here in the 90s that eventually, tie into Raising Kanan. So I want to ask you guys, your thoughts about that. So, Dana, what do you think? You're muted, by the way.
Okay, because I was probably making the most faces when I said that, because I don't want that. I want each power thing to stand on its own. And I feel that by introducing Tejada, either will you see him physically, I'm okay with like a name. Hey, Tejada, have you heard about that guy? And then we move on. That's fine. That's cool. I don't want my power series to start interconnecting that way. I think, like I said before, it's a whole universe. Each planet has its own little world. Let them stay on their own planet. I don't feel the need for that to happen. I think that each show, each series is strong on its own, and we don't need that sort of connection right away. I don't want to see any Tommy. I don't want to see I don't Ghost. I don't want to see none of them. I want to focus on these characters. And I don't feel the need to bring those characters from book 2 into book 3. I think that not to call up Kevin Feige, but there's a reason as to why we didn't see Doctor Strange in WandaVision. I don't want it to be like, oh, that guy is just overshadowing what's really going on. Because now we have, say, Monet, she's meeting with Raquel. I don't want that situation to happen. But if that's something that is inevitable, I don't want them to be buddy-buddy. I just want them to just be two great, incredibly strong women who say hi and bye. That's all I want.
Yeah, like because I think that I didn't, if let's say Tejada, the guy, shows up, or Monet, a young Monet shows up, I don't want them to be reoccurring characters. Like,
I don't want them to be any
you
character.
could have like just one episode maybe where like they show up and just to show that these people were around too at this time, and then keep it moving after that.
The fact that you know that information should be okay enough. Just because you live in Queens and I don't know, Pookie lives in Queens, doesn't mean that we should necessarily meet each other. We run our own separate business separately. There's no reason for us to connect. There's no reason for Tejada or Monet to be in here. Let them do what they do, and let Raquel and her family do what they do. And that kind of blending thing, I just don't want that to happen. I feel that it'll just be a distraction, even if it's for a second.
Okay.
There's no need.
Okay, but I'm gonna let Rich go, but real quick, I just want to say, like, if this show Raising Kanan continues to go on for multiple seasons, eventually we are gonna have to run into some characters that we know.
No.
Eventually, it's gonna have to happen. So,
Not right away. No, this can be the Kanan story minus my friend Ghost. Everything is from Kanan's perspective, so we don't necessarily need that. Remember that episode where they dragged out all of those episodes by showing us everyone's point of view, right? So, for example, remember how we saw that one point of view and we really didn't see everybody else and how they interacted until later on? Let this show just be that. Show the point of view of Kanan. If you have to mention Ghost by any means at all, have him like you call him up on the payphone. That's literally it.
Yeah, and that's cool. I'm okay with subtle references, but I'm just saying, eventually there has to be something. If this show continues,
no,
there has to be, because like in the real Power show, they talk like they go way back. Like They talk like Kanan, Tommy, and Ghost. They talk like they go way back. Like they were in diapers together. That's how they talk in the show.
We're now in high school, which is past diapers.
Yeah,
I know. Therefore we don't need each other.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, so if we're already at high school point, it's only a matter of time before.
No, you can rewrite history. Plenty of people have done it.
But Rich, what's your take on this whole thing, like with the Tejadas and then also the crossovers and stuff?
Well, in terms of the Tejadas, I kind of feel like I am expecting some type of tease that at least the father, because you said that they made a very big deal about him. I mean, but I'm expecting some type of tease because again, it is a connected universe. You know, every time you watch this show now, and I'm sure, and when you watch book 2 and book 4 and book 5, they have that whole intro, the animation intro, Power Universe. So I kind of feel like they don't have to connect it, but I kind of also feel like they can have a tidbit in there that is some connection, whether it's something that there's another character that just happens to be working with one of the Tejadas, and they mention in name, you don't actually see the character. That can totally happen. But we'll see, because I think my thought is if I'm Courtney Kemp or 50 Cent, obviously you want these shows to stand on their own, but nothing rules out introducing something in one show. And then if it's and then you're also getting people interested so that they may consider watching the other show. That'll be a nice connecting point if they decide to take that route. Do they need to do it? Absolutely not. But one thing I will say is this. I agree 110% what you said about Ghost. Because again, they had this whole thing where Kanan got set up. He got set up by Ghost and Tasha. So you have to have that because that's how the character ends up in jail. So I kind of feel like you're going to have to, at some point when this show ends, when the show is done, they're going to have to get around showing that one way or another. Does it mean they're actually going to show Ghost and Tommy or Tasha for that matter? Probably not. But again, there was tension between Tasha and Kanan. I would also say, because Kanan was always looking at Tasha and stuff like that. Yeah, it kind of feels like you have to, at some point, at the very end, allude to that. Unless we're just going to completely ignore all of that would happen, which wouldn't make any kind of sense. Because that's the question that everybody had in original Power is, what happened between Kanan and these characters? Why is the relationship so fractured? And yes, the writers ruined that when they decided to have the Super Friends team up and stuff like that. But I kind of feel like you have to explain that. The whole thing of him getting set up. Because he was in jail for a while. I'm pretty sure he lost a lot of his life, a lot of his adult life in prison. So we have to see how that happened. That's just my opinion. But we'll see what happens.
But he ain't an adult yet.
But they meet before they're adults, like, because if you listen to how they talk in Power, if you go back and like watch the first few seasons, they talk like they go way, way, way back, like kindergarten or something. But obviously, it's not the case in Raising Kanan because it's already a high school age. But it's gonna have to happen eventually. Then, if they're talking like that in the main Power, it's only a matter of time now before they actually meet, at this age. So there has to be something that comes, like, later on.
We'll have a Civil War.
If this show gets renewed for season 3, like, there needs to start being some references at that point.
I'm good with season 5, and then they can have a Civil War thing, and we meet everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see.
But this is a great topic for the people listening to chime in on. I want to hear your takes on this. So leave all your comments. Let us know what you think about these things that we discussed. But that is going to be it for today. Unless either of you have something else you wanted to bring up about Raising Kanan.
Oh no, I enjoyed the episode. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next week. Okay. Anything, Dana?
I am looking forward to see what happens next week as well. This so far still is a very good show. They have not let me down. The writing, yay. Acting, yay. Storytelling, yay. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of what is going to happen with these characters.
Yeah, indeed. And big shouts to Stars because they did break some records with Raising Kanan. Like, this was one of the most viewed and talked about shows, among the African American community, and also like the biggest show being tweeted about on Twitter and everything like that. So, they're breaking records with this Power universe, all the time. So, big shouts to Stars.
And one last point, Gary, do you want to mention what you saw today on Instagram?
on Instagram. Oh yeah. So 50 Cent posted, he posted a picture that they're already filming the next season of Raising Kanan. So, me and Rich were talking about this, and it seems like they want a power show on TV all year, like all year long. There's going to be different power shows, because if you look at it now, if you look at the schedule, we have Raising Kanan now. There's going to be a break afterwards, and then we're going to have BMF, which isn't power, but it's a 50 Cent show. And then November, it's Book 2, season 2, and then early 2022 is going to be the Tommy Show, Force. So
they're filming Tommy now. They posted a video where they're like, "Where are you, 50 Cent?"
Yeah, because 50 posted that too. He posted the Tommy Show. So it seems like all year long there's going to be different power shows and 50 Cent shows, showing on Power pretty much. Because by the time that Force season ends, we're probably going to get season 2 of Raising Kanan then. Once that finishes. So
in the summertime, the next summer.
And then eventually Lawrence Tate is getting his show still.
Yeah. So you might even have 2 power shows at once airing or something like that. That would be crazy. So yeah, they're really taking over, and I feel like 50 and Courtney Kemp, they need a stake in the company or something at this point, because it's like, wow, they're pumping out these shows. So yeah, props to them. Props to the stars, writers and production team, everyone. Like, it seems like they're all working very hard over there, and they really want this to be like their Netflix kind of thing, So shouts to them. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And do you guys have any shout outs? Anything, Dana?
Yeah, shout outs to everyone who is listening to us, who watches us. Thank you so much for the support, and we look forward to doing this again next week.
Yeah. Anything, Rich?
Yeah, thanks to everybody for the continued support on Powercast, for the people that liked the video, as well as those that decided they wanted to thumbs it down. It's all good. We like having conversations, and we like feedback, and we also like for everybody that commented, we appreciate. Continue to comment, share your thoughts on the show with us, and we appreciate your continued support. We look forward to doing more shows.
Indeed. Yeah, we love all engagement. If you got some negative feedback to tell us, tell us that too. We read all the comments. I saw what you said, person. So hey, Joe Budden said, if you wrote it online, then I read it. So if you write it, I read it, guarantee you. So, but yeah, we read all the comments, and we appreciate everyone. So definitely engage with the content, and let us know what you think about it, whether you like it or not. And if you do like it, please hit the thumbs up, and also just drop a comment, let us know what you think, and chime in on some of these topics that we raised. And we also have a lot of other content here at the Koalition. There's other shows that we recap and we talk about. We also talk about video games, technology,
movies.
So yeah, movies. So yeah, so yeah, like, check out the channel. See if there's anything else you like. Subscribe. Check out the Koalition.com website. We are all of our stuff up there. We also have editorial pieces and things of that nature, and reviews. So definitely take some time to check that stuff out. And you can follow us all on Twitter. The information is on the screen right now. And we are also on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts also, if you prefer to listen to just audio. So yeah. And that will be it for this week. We will be back next week to recap episode 3 of Raising Kanan. But until then, take care of yourselves. Have a great week. And yeah, just look after yourselves, because, things might be opening up, but it's still dangerous out there. So, take care. Take good care of yourself. But that's pretty much it. So peace out, everyone. And we'll see you next week.